Welcome back to another episode of Life with Lamb. Today I'm here with Paige Tan. That feels so weird to say.
Why?
Because you're
That's
my
how
teacher.
you know me.
Exactly. Because I'm used to calling you Miss Tan.
You never called me Miss Tan. Yeah, you actually
I did.
You did.
I was respectable enough to call you
Sure.
Miss
Let's
Tan.
go with that.
So what brings you here, Paige? Oh, God. Okay, no. I need to run through it a few more times.
Okay.
Good start to the
Great
podcast.
start.
How are you? How are you feeling?
I'm good.
You're good?
Thanks for having me.
No, all good. I feel like, I haven't seen you in so long.
Yeah, and we've been talking about this forever.
Forever,
And
I know.
It's just been
I know.
It's just taken like only 2 years to get
Just
done.
2 years.
Just 2 years.
It's okay. We're peaking now, so that's
Peaking at what?
I think I've gotten better
At life. Peaking at
Yeah,
life.
peaking at life. Life with Lamb.
Shameless plug.
Exactly. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I guess, how do I know you? Give
How
some
do
context.
you know me?
Yeah, give some context to the listeners.
Good question. Well, I don't know if you knew me when you started year 7.
No, I didn't.
But I sort of knew you. I didn't teach you, but I taught like another year 7 class, and I think they got along with you, and I sort of knew you from there. And then 2 years later, just our luck, we got stuck together, didn't we, in year 9 maths? But no, it was a good year. It was a good year.
It was a great year.
Really a lot of fun with that class as well. I think you guys were. Like you guys were, yeah. We shouldn't have favorites as teachers, but like you guys were always so fun to come to because you would work, but you were also fun. So yeah, like year 9 maths, good times.
And that's how we know each other. I've got my maths teacher on the podcast.
Yeah, like what the hell?
I know.
Like what is
We're evolving.
We're evolving. Times have changed.
Exactly. Well, I guess you're not a teacher anymore, and this is why I wanted to get you on the podcast, because you're doing your own thing.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. I guess tell us a bit about that.
Yep. So, where do I even start?
I know, it just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it just came out.
Paige Tan's gone rogue.
Thanks for preparing me. Where do I even start? Well, I have been teaching since I finished uni, and uni came right off the back of high school, so I never gave myself a break ever. And like I was fortunate enough to get a job straight out of uni, obviously at Q. Stuck there for 5 years, and then gave myself a sea change and changed schools. In those years, I think I also felt myself burning out throughout the time. As much as I loved the job, loved the kids, you guys, as I said, were all good fun, but I think the narrative of the teacher workload is very real. Like the workload just keeps increasing. For someone like me who I tend to think I am quite flexible and adaptable with things, like it was even hard for someone like me. So burnout hit, and then changed schools, thought that would change things, but didn't really. And then throw lockdown and all that into the mix. It was just a recipe for disaster, I think. But also it just gave me the kick I needed to give myself a break and try something new. I've always been someone who I think I like to encourage students to do what they love. And I think I am living that now in terms of stepping out and trying things that make me happy and not really worrying about like what others may think or the fears that I had of doing things myself. So I think I'm finally walking the talk that I've talked for a long time.
Yeah. So much to unpack there. I
Yeah.
think you talk about how you went from high school, uni teaching.
Yeah.
And you faced a lot of that burnout. I guess as a kid, what were you like? And did you always fit that narrative because of Asian parents? Or?
Yeah, 100% spot on there. I grew up in Singapore, as you know, I think.
I know a little bit.
Yeah, you know a little bit about that. I think we've always had a very interesting student-teacher relationship. I think that banter we've talked about before. But back to your question. Grew up in Singapore. I think I was very lucky to have been sort of made the way I am. I fit the school system perfectly. Like school came to me easily. I enjoy learning. I enjoyed learning and still do to this day. So school was always like my happy place because I liked learning new things. I liked being around my schoolmates and classmates and all those things. But I think growing up in Singapore and in an environment and culture where academics is such a big priority there, talks about doing your own things. Like, we never talked about that. It was always finish school, go to uni, get your degree, get a job and stay in that job until you retire. Like, good old linear story, right? And that was really the path I sort of saw myself in for a very long time. And I think being here, moving here to Australia, and seeing more people doing their own things and not being afraid to start new things and try new things, that was very refreshing for me. And it's taken years to get me to this point where I'm going, I can actually try things and not be afraid. And it's taken a lot of work to get here, a lot of unlearning and relearning. But yeah, like, I don't know what else to say. I've lost my train of thought.
I mean, that's what happens when you're on a podcast. So it's crazy you say that because I think it's so relevant to me right now. And I know, I don't know what you thought of me when I was a bit younger and when you were teaching me, but I'm starting to look back at high school and now that I'm in uni and really reflect and be like, is this like what I should be doing? Is this what I want as well? And I guess this is why I have the podcast and trying to delve into different avenues other than my typical commerce job and doing internships and everything. So I can 100% relate to that. And talk to us a bit about the burnout, or I guess a point in your career or journey where you were like, this is enough.
Yeah. I don't think it was like a one-off thing. It was an ongoing like challenge that got me to the point going, I need to do something to change. So I think towards the end of my time at Q, which was 2018. Yeah, I left when you were in year 11.
I know, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, I didn't stick around for your year 12 year.
It was heartbreaking.
Sorry, bye. Soz bye. But it got to the point where, like, don't get me wrong, I love the school, love the job, love the people. You know that I worked with great people too. Like, there was good teachers in the school itself. But it got to the point where I wasn't looking forward to waking up and going to work. And I knew that something was wrong there because teaching has always been something that lit me up. And once the challenges of waking up, going to school, feeling dreadful, and then feeling a bit of resentment about the workload and all those things, that was definitely the start of it all. And then realizing that a lot of my time was spent on work things. Like, I wasn't doing things for myself anymore. Like, I wasn't going to the gym, I wasn't going out on walks, I wasn't like doing things that I liked. Like, reading is one of those things that I love to do as well, and I just wasn't doing any of it. And like taking a step back and looking at it from like a zoomed out lens, it was clear that there was something that needed to be done. So I think if anyone listening is feeling like burnout is such a buzzword today. And
it is.
I think
it's a hot word.
People are talking about burnout. People are saying that they're experiencing burnout or they're on the brink of burnout. And unfortunately, it is common. But I think that narrative around burnout being common shouldn't, like, it becomes very dangerous when people start thinking it's normal. So the perspective I took was that this is not normal. I need to change something in my life. And then, like I said before, I changed workplaces, and it was, I think, a Band-Aid for a moment. like short-term change. Great, everything was exciting, things were new, and then quickly realizing that I was falling back to old patterns. And I think that's also something that people who come in and out of burnout, they find a lot of Band-Aid fixes, but it's not sustainable. So I think I've gone on a tangent here, but yeah, like burnout is not fun at all. And it's important to, I think, recognize and acknowledge if you are feeling signs of it and actually consciously choose to do something about it and not stay stuck in it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Why teaching?
Why teaching?
Was that always on the radar?
Yeah, pretty much. I think from when I was about year 9, like I had a really, really good maths teacher. Funny. But I don't think that was the reason why I chose maths as my subject of choice. But like I had a really supportive maths teacher in year 9 and 10.
Became a successor.
And then from there, like I think it really reinforced me wanting to teach and be with young people, like work with young people. I was always that kid when I was young. You guys here in Australia don't have assessment books like Singapore does. So.
That sounds scary as what?
Yeah, so like basically when we were from primary school, we have an exam to sit in primary 6, so grade 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, and that determines like what high school you go to. Yeah, that's the system there. But so we essentially have these books where we just essentially, it's like practice exams or practice questions. You just do it over and over again. And I was the kid who loved taking my red pen out and correcting my work after I finished my work. So I think that started from a young age. And then through the years, through my time in school, I always knew I liked working with people who were younger than me, like in a mentorship role. And I think that just naturally progressed onto wanting to step into teaching.
Yeah, that's amazing. And for a long time, I assume you thought that was your why and that was your purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it actually like being a teacher? I think I've always got the student lens on, of course, because I'm used to you being a teacher, of course. And from my perspective, it's like, I want really good education. I want my paper back as soon as I sit an exam, as quick as possible. And I think this ties in with your burnout and the expectations as well. I want to hear from your perspective as a teacher, what's it like? What's it actually like?
Teaching, God. I think today it's a very intense job, but there's things to not like about it, but there's also so many things to love about it. Speaking from my experience and my perspective, like I enjoyed the relationship side of things. I think that was something I always prided myself on, in creating good relationships with the students who were in my classes, or even the students outside of my classes. I think that was always my fundamental philosophy, because it's funny when I think back at uni teacher training, like you would hear people or older teachers say, don't smile before Easter, don't let your students know that you're fun, or things like that. And I'm like, but why? If you create the relationship with them from day one, like they would literally do anything for you.
I can't believe are they teaching that at uni?
Yeah, like I mean, there's just this saying that older teachers have sort of passed down through generations, and it's really, I just did not understand it. And
that's so backward.
Very backward. There's so many things about the education system that hasn't moved with the times, and we've had this conversation before as well.
Talk a bit about it.
Yeah, I think it's archaic in the way that teaching is. At the end of the day, I think schools were created for a purpose back in the day, and that purpose, I think, has not changed over time, even though the world has changed so much. We're still sort of like in a system where we are churning out like exam sitters and rote learning, and because at the end of the day, there's still that exam that you sit for, right? And like if that's still the end goal or objective, like when you reverse engineer that, you're still teaching to an exam. You're still teaching to what you need to know to do well in this end product. Which I personally think there's so much more to learning. Like English, maths, they're all important, don't get me wrong. But things are so accessible to us today. And I don't think we need to restrict ourselves within the four walls of a classroom to learn English or learn maths. So, yeah, like that's my thoughts on education.
Yeah, I agree. And I think coming out of high school, I don't know, I got my ATAR, got a good ATAR. And then I was like, well.
And you don't even talk about it anymore, do you?
I don't even talk about it anymore. Yeah, exactly. There's always that saying, it's just a number.
Yeah.
And it literally just is.
Yeah.
You go into Melbourne Uni and no one gives a shit about
Yeah.
what you've done or where you've come from or what score you got and everything. It just does not matter at all.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what's your major? That's the next thing.
Yeah. and then like, what jobs are you applying for?
Exactly. Oh, what internships have you got lined up? It's like, I think, yeah, when you talk about how there's just that end goal, I understand there needs to be like a quantitative?
Yeah.
Yeah, quantitative measure.
You still need to measure something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need to measure like
I
the
get
capability of people, but I get what you mean by the archaic things. Like I came out of high school knowing not how to like set up, I don't know, health insurance or tax or how to find a job or how to be really good at interviews and stuff. And I was very lucky because I was extroverted and had the people skills, but I feel really bad for people who might not.
Yeah, and don't have the opportunity around them to see people or observe people doing these things.
100%. And then you go into uni as well. And because of the last 2 years, I understand that COVID's a thing and we haven't been able to have more experiences. But then how has that treated this generation so far? I think we're going to be so incapable in the future. And it's really scary because in all reality, we're writing our notes after lectures and then end of year exam, everyone's just looking through their notes.
Yeah.
There's not a single piece of information that I can
probably recall. And then do you ever look back at those notes after that unit is
No, there's never. I think I'm so incompetent in that aspect, and I used to pride myself in being able to recall information or write an essay with quotes and remembering what they would mean and linking it back. And I just think that education isn't supporting that anymore.
Correct.
And I'm really scared for, I guess, what our generation and future generations to come are coming into.
Yeah, it is an interesting time, isn't it, to live in? But I think, what you said before with the recollection of information, I think one thing about you that always struck me was you remind myself of me, like when I was in school, in that school wasn't too hard. If I'm not wrong, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're right.
But school wasn't too hard. Like things, like our brains were naturally wired to like recollecting information or just taking tests and exams. I knew you thrived in taking tests, like in school. And it's just funny knowing that outside of that school environment, there's just so many other skills that we need developed at an earlier age, but they're not being like focused on, if that makes sense.
And as a teacher, you could definitely see that, I assume. And how did that make you feel? Did you feel that the system was really rigid and you couldn't really do much about it? Did that contribute?
It was hard. Yeah, it was almost like a conflict with my values.
Yeah.
Because there was so much of the time when I just wanted to talk to kids, like just have conversation and talk about what's going on in their lives and things like that. And I think that's what led me to the YLC role as well, like throughout my career. But like being a maths teacher in a maths classroom, like maths itself is already so structured. There's a right and a wrong.
It's black and white.
Like literally black and white. There's no grey. And I always tried to make a grey because I didn't want my students thinking that there's a right and a wrong, yes, but like there's no one way to get to that end point.
Yeah, and I love that when you were teaching, I could see how hard you were trying to incorporate different measures and bring in different students and skills as well.
Yeah, and I think it's important because like really in real life, there's no one way to get to what you want. Like is not straight. It's not a straight line. It's I'm going to say it's like a sine curve.
Oh my god. Oh.
I had to
Get out of here.
throw that one in there. But yeah, it's just like there's just so many different ways to get somewhere, and everyone has their own unique set of strengths, and like we just need to tap into that more. So yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting. And speaking to your conflict as well, it's hard because it's maths and so many kids find it so difficult to do maths in the first place.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to implement the grey area or like trying to have a conversation with kids, between you and I, it would have been easy.
Yeah.
Because you knew and I knew that I knew the content.
Yeah.
And
correct.
knew how to do it. But
like you literally did not need me in year 9 at all. Like you knew what you were doing.
It's like y equals mx plus c, you know, like those graphs. But it's hard because other students who might not be as competent, if you tried to have a conversation with them and they weren't performing, then they'd be given, I don't know, warnings or speaking to the coordinator.
Correct.
Or parents are looking at them.
And through no fault of their own as well.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, and that was the hard bit. It's like you can't expect everyone to be good at everything because it's just impossible. Like, ask me to write a history essay? No way. Like, no, thank you. So, yeah, I think catering to what students can do better naturally, that's something that I think not just the education industry but the whole world, we need to work more towards that.
It's so hard though because obviously the unique pathways and different skill levels.
Yeah.
Was that always heartbreaking for you, watching other students who might not be following the rest of the crop as well?
100%. And like I think for myself, it was always important for me to keep in mind that yes, maths may not be their strong point, but they have strengths in so many other areas, and to continue to encourage and foster that as well. And again, I think because school is such a structured place and students tend to see like their English teacher as just their English teacher and their maths teacher is just their maths teacher. And then sometimes I would see the reactions of students and I go, oh, you're so good at music. Like, is that something you want to do? Like after school and all that. And they're like, you're my maths teacher. Why are you talking to me about music and me being good at music? And it's just like heartbreaking as well to see that. Imagine. Because it's like, why has society sort of pigeonholed like people into those holes?
That's true. I guess I'm really fortunate and I'm really happy with myself that I was able to sort of see past that as well. And I think that's why we had such a great relationship. Yeah. And I remember having really fond memories of my teachers and the relationships I was able to build, because I think like you're still human, you know? like yes, you're my maths teacher and everything, but I just think we're still able to have a conversation as well. And it's really sad to see. And I remember back in high school when everyone was like, oh, like, I hate this teacher, you know? And it's just like...
It's normal.
I know, it's so normal.
We can't love everyone in the world.
but they're still... You're still human, you know? And I think I've always seen that, and I've always seen that pass... Like, each of my teachers as well. Yeah. And it saddens me to hear that a lot of the time. And then I'm reflecting now and I'm thinking, I would have taken up a lot of your time. Just like talking to you in the classroom and everything.
But it was fun.
I know, but I feel bad for the kids.
Yeah, I know. And again, it's that balance, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah. Because you have 15 minutes to learn a certain concept.
Yeah.
And then I'm just, And
again, it comes back to the structure of school.
Exactly. Like, I'm going to change the cameras.
Go.
But continue talking. No,
that's so weird.
Is it?
Talk about what?
Talk about, what was your favourite memory of teaching?
Teaching.
What's been your, like, something that lights you up to this day that you still sort of look back at teaching and you're like, damn, I missed that?
This, like what we're doing today. It's, I don't know if I can speak for all teachers here, but I think teachers who value relationships and have always prioritized relationships with students, like I personally love it when those relationships shift outside of school as well. So there's still students from Q that I'm still in touch with, especially the group that I was their YLC for 2 years. Like,
What's a
there's just
YLC? Year level
coordinator,
Yeah,
correct.
Just for listeners, you know.
I just never YLC'd your year.
I know, because you chose to leave.
No, it's not that I chose to leave. I tried fighting to YLC your year.
Really?
But yeah, it didn't happen.
Oh.
But yeah, so I think the relationships that stick outside of school, and again, like you mentioned before, students seeing teachers as humans and not just teachers, and realizing that the teacher-student relationship is not confined just to school. That's been the most fun part.
Yeah. And again, on that point of like the student-teacher relationship, like bringing it to a uni lens, I don't think I've kept in contact with any of my tutors.
Yeah.
Or lecturers. And I understand that it's a 12-week semester.
And you see them like once a week.
Yeah, and you see them once a week, so not like a 4 times a week sort of thing. But it's really sad because I want to get to know these people and like actually pick their brain in the subject.
Yeah.
Even though it might not be the most interesting or a really difficult subject, I really miss that connection between student and teacher, because at the end of the day, you're going to learn a lot better from someone that you respect or someone that you get along with.
100%. Everyone listen to that. That's very important. That's our relationship. That's so important.
Don't smile before you say it. Like, what?
Yeah. Like, yeah. Once that relationship is there, once that trust is there, like everything else is just easy. Yeah.
And bringing it to relationships as well. You're obviously going to listen to someone that you prefer.
Yeah.
And like.
Yeah.
Over someone that you don't.
That's true. Very true.
So burnout. How did that affect you? Just wasn't enjoying everything.
Yeah, literally. Like physically, it was the tiredness, like always feeling tired, no matter what time of day it is. And I could have like a 10-hour sleep and still feel tired waking up.
Was that the worst of it?
Physically, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I fell sick more often. So my body was clearly telling me something. But I think emotionally it was that resentment that I talked about before, the not wanting to rock up to work, the not wanting to do anything work-related. Yeah, I think physically and emotionally, those were the biggest hits.
Did you find yourself projecting onto maybe students or
co-workers? And there were times where I felt bad. Like I really tried very hard to prioritize my students and not bring it into the classroom. Colleagues took the brunt of it, I think. And Andrew, my partner, took the brunt of it.
I can imagine.
I was always coming home and ranting and like going, oh my God, I hate this. Why am I doing this? So, yeah, I think I tried to keep it away from my students more. Yeah.
How hard was that?
Hard.
Yeah.
Because as you know me, I like to be very honest with
Yes.
my students. Like so honest to the point where I think I used to swear in front of you in school.
Yes, she did. She did.
But
she definitely did.
Everybody, I don't do this in front of everyone.
It's good banter.
Yeah, it's good banter.
No, I really cherish the times that we had in high school, and I'm glad we keep in touch.
Yeah. And I think the more honest you are, again, it brings us back to that topic of that trust, isn't it? The more honest you are with people around you, whether it's students or friends or peers, the connection, like it's so much easier to make connection there, and then relationships sort of flourish more.
Yeah.
When that happens. So, yeah, it was very, very hard. Coming back to the question about keeping it from students, I think it was like it took a toll in that energetically there was so much I was holding in.
Yeah.
And then coming home or seeing colleagues and I go, bleh, like everything just comes out. So, yeah, it's just trying to find that balance was quite hard as well. And I think that was a big factor in me choosing to take a step back and go, okay, let's hit a pause, give myself time to just re-evaluate where I'm at and what I truly value. And, yeah,
How did
Here
you
we are
go?
today.
Yeah, no.
Here we are today.
so much to unpack, I guess. Yeah, there's a lot to like reevaluating yourself and doing all the reflection. How did you go about it? And were there any people in your life? I know Andrew, your partner, would have been a really big help
Yeah.
in supporting you through that. And is there any advice that you would give to people if they're sort of in this stage of their life?
So I think the number one thing that comes to mind is pause. Like allow yourself time to pause. Whether it's like you're feeling like you're in the thick of it, or if you're working full time, say, like give yourself a day off and let it be a day off. Like don't give yourself a mental health day and then end up doing work things during that mental health day. I was doing that a lot.
Oh, okay.
Like, and that was not healthy. But yeah, like just allow yourself time to pause and listen to yourself and what you really need. I think life is so busy as it is, and the world is so noisy that we don't often give ourselves that space to tap into what we need. And again, it's something that's not taught in schools. Like we don't talk about emotions in schools. We don't teach about like listening to what your body needs, and like we cop it once we come out of school because we don't know how to deal.
Yeah, and it was even looked down upon, I think.
Yeah.
At Q, or I think in high school, you're sort of looked down upon if you like go to the school counsellor.
There's still that stigma, isn't there?
There's still that stigma. It's definitely getting a lot better, but
Yeah.
I remember when I was there, it was more like, you have to go to the school counsellor. Like, that's
what's
really
going
bad.
on?
Yeah, what's
Yeah,
going on?
yeah.
Can I know? And it was very taboo to go
Yeah.
to the school counsellor and have a chat. Whereas now I definitely just look back and think, wow, I should have had a
done it
chat.
more. Yeah.
Or gone to a teacher and have a chat.
Yeah.
Because you're older than us, obviously.
Correct, yeah.
And you're going to have more worldly advice. And I find myself leaning a lot on older people and surrounding myself with people that have gone through it. Because when we're young and something bad happens, we think it's like the end of the world.
Yeah.
Everything's crumbling and everything.
The world is ending as we know it.
I'm a horrible person.
Yeah, like, no one's going to love me.
But it's definitely just not the case. And
Just a little bump in the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's an awesome takeaway, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to just take a pause and there can be a lot of guilt associated with it.
I get that.
How do you navigate yourself around that?
Again,
'Cause I guess the
A
world
lot.
doesn't stop for you.
yeah, it doesn't.
That's the harsh
And
reality of
yeah,
it.
correct.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. That's why we have to learn to work with it, right? Not work against it. But how did I work around the guilt? I mean, I still feel guilt to this day sometimes when I'm slowing down and resting. But I think it starts with tapping into what it is that you want for yourself. Like if your health is something that you're prioritizing, whether it's your physical health or your mental health, make time for it. And like that's your non-negotiable. Don't let it be the first thing that goes when life gets busy. I know for me, when life gets busy, workouts tend to be the first thing that goes. I tend to sleep in a lot more because I'm tired. And like sleep in a lot more, not in a good, like I'm sleeping more for my body kind of thing. It's because I'm so tired that I'm just crashing. But yeah, a lot of the time it's the things that are good for us that go first. Like we start eating unhealthily, we start, like bad habits just tend to creep in. So it really starts with that conscious decision of going, hey, my health or my mental health is something that I'm really going to prioritize, and like having that boundary around things that you do for yourself too, and telling people around you what it is. That's been a big lesson, like communicating my boundaries to other people and going, hey, this is my time, like I'm going to the gym now, I can't meet up with you for a drink. Or,
I think that's huge.
yeah, like I used to be
yeah.
a yes person. Like anything anyone would ask me, I'll go, yeah, sure, I'll drop everything for you.
Yeah.
But it's practice.
Yeah.
It gets easier the more you do it.
I think that's awesome, especially when you speak it out. Like, yes, you can journal it and pencil it into the calendar, but how easy is it to just delete it off your calendar?
Yeah,
or
correct.
scribble it out? Whereas if you're saying it and communicating it to people, they might question you and they're like, oh, I thought you were going to the gym at this time.
Yeah.
Or
Is
because
the accountability
you put it there, exactly,
there as well, isn't it? Yeah.
You keep yourself accountable and someone else can keep you accountable as well if you're communicating that. Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
So you pulled the plug in 2020, end of 2020.
2021.
Or 2021,
Yeah.
midway through? Or
End
of 2021.
Yeah.
When you pulled the plug, did you have a clear goal in mind? Like, from where you are now, doing your coaching,
Yeah.
is that something that you knew you wanted to go into, or was you just pulled the plug, pause, let's just
Yeah, I think it was more the latter.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I'm living that rebel phase in my 30s. Like, I've been telling everyone this is the gap year I've never taken. And like, I mean, I count my blessings every day that I'm in a position where I could do that as well.
So important.
Yeah, like I don't have a mortgage, I don't have kids, I don't have pets, I don't have like all these extra responsibilities. And I went, hey, like I can actually do this and take time off. Like, when am I ever going to get this time again? You never know. So I'm like, okay, I'll just give myself this year, take a step back. And it's not like I'm doing nothing. I think the coaching thing was always there, was always like I got my cert in 2020, and even through 2021 I was sort of doing coaching on and off, but never really fully committed because there was still teaching to do.
Yeah.
And trying to do two things at once, as you know, is very, very, very hard, especially if you want to do a good job at both. You end up doing a shit job at both when you try and do them together. But, God, this is a very long-winded story, isn't it? And
We love that.
Lost my
We love
track
that.
of
No,
thought.
you're okay.
But, yeah, taking a step back, again, I think I'm very lucky that Andrew has always run his own business as well, and I've seen him like work for himself for this long, for as long as we've been together, and I go, okay, this is possible. Like, I just need to commit to trying and not fearing that notion of failure. I think that was something that always held me back, like in terms of going all in on the coaching. Even last year, it's like, oh, who am I for people to want to listen to me, or like all those good old imposter syndrome, fear of failure and all that.
All
and
the buzzwords.
Yeah, I know, right? Just dropping all it in there. But it's like I've gotten to the point where I go, nah, fuck this. I have experience that I can tap into. And ultimately, at the end of the day, there's so many people in the world, and there's enough to go around.
Yeah.
Like, your people will find you.
Exactly. And it's so anecdotal, and people can definitely relate to that, or might be in your position where they're scared to, I don't know, say something or put content out. But the fact that you're doing it gives them the confidence as well. So it's a really positive sort of domino effect, which is so cool. And I found that with the podcast as well. And people are like, oh my God, I can so relate with this story. Which is awesome to see as well. I wanted to ask, like, in terms of parents.
Yeah.
We're both Asian. If you can tell. If you can tell.
If you couldn't already tell. Jokes.
I wanted to ask in terms of, you know, you've gone high school, uni, work, and then you've taken this break. Parents, were they updated on it? Were they in support, or?
Yeah, I think it's the fact that I've made this decision here just as I've turned 30. I think we've gotten to the point where they realize that I'm an adult and I can make my own decisions. But I guess, like, when I was younger, like, that societal conditioning is just so strong, and there was always that fear within me as well to stray from the norm, going, oh my God, people are not going to approve, they're not going to understand and all that. So like there's the support there. I think parents will be parents at the end of the day. Most parents will always support what their kids do. But yeah, it's. I think there was adjusting
Yes.
to be done.
And what was that like?
Yeah, I think it's an ongoing journey. But I think because my parents are also, like, they're retired now, so I think they've got a different mindset to what it was when I was younger and they were younger and they were still working corporate, because my parents were they're both accounting trained. And my dad always worked in the corporate finance banking side of things. So, you know, that kind of mindset. It was always like business, get a job.
9 to 5.
Correct, 9 to 5. And anything different was just hard to understand. But I think because times have changed and my parents have also, like, I think they've come to understand what today's climate is.
Yeah.
And it's okay to not do what they did. But I know not everyone out there has that same mindset.
Well, it can be so hard because you obviously have your societal outlook. It's like, go to uni, get a good ATAR, finish uni, get your degree, go to the 9 to 5. You know? You're doing arts. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Like, what art? Like, you're writing stories every day?
Are you painting? It's like,
like, how are you going to make money from that?
Exactly. It's that question. And so there's that. And then there's parents who've obviously grown up with that trend and have grown up working that 9 to 5. Yeah. I'm really grateful for my parents. I think
you've got cool parents.
I've got sick parents.
They are so cool.
Yeah, dad is so hardworking. Works like 3 jobs from home. Is just epic and loves us unconditionally. You know, and just wants the best for us. Yeah. And mum, she's very cool as well. Yeah. Like does the PT and has her own business as well. So I've been.
And I love that, like your mum particularly, because she has a PhD, doesn't she?
Yeah, she has a PhD, and no one really knows that.
It's just so interesting, like with her own story as well, like having gone through that hugely academic route to get a bloody PhD, and now she's doing what she enjoys. Like exactly. That's so good for you and even Brendan to have, just to see every day, and go, like, it's actually possible for us to stray from what we thought we committed to.
Exactly. And I don't think, and I've been normalized and accustomed to growing up with that environment, which is so, I'm very privileged to be in that position to, like, watch mum do what she loves. And she's literally, she goes for walks every day.
I always see on Instagram, she's in the pool, she's doing Pilates, like, she's taking the dog out on a walk.
Exactly. She's just like living her best life. Exactly.
Literally.
And she gets paid for it and can put a roof over the top of our heads, which is just amazing. And I'm going to get her on the podcast, of course.
Love it.
But she went through this whole academia route, and then she's just like, she literally told me, I was like, so why didn't you pursue your PhD and why didn't you go further with it? She's like, I just didn't like it.
And good on her for going, I don't like it and I'm not doing it.
Exactly.
Because there's so many people who go, I don't like it, but I will still sort of stay in it.
Yeah, it's that, I don't know, accepting the fact that you can't really change it, but you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the power is within all of us at the end of the day. Yeah.
Talk to me about your coaching.
What do you want to know?
I don't know. What's the goal? What's the purpose? And I'm going to change the cameras again.
Oh my God. Well, with the coaching, I feel like I'm on a mission to open up conversations more around the teacher well-being story. As you know, schools talk about student well-being all the time, and student well-being is like something that schools tend to plug as well when they sell themselves, right? Like, we've got a great well-being program for students, but what about the teachers? So it's tapping into that experience that I had working through burnout and going, like, I don't want this for teachers because the job is already hard enough. And I think just focusing on spreading the word that as much as externally there are a lot of things that seem to be out of our control, but internally there are decisions we can make to manage how we feel about them as well. So it's a big focus on the teacher well-being side of things, which is really funny when I think about it, starting out as a maths trained teacher and moving into the well-being space.
Could never pick it. I mean, I could pick it with you, to be honest. I think you were always...
You reckon?
I think you were always empathetic of everyone. And I know even though it was like myself and a couple of mates that would always grab your attention in the classroom, you would still be like, okay, guys, like, chill. And then I'm going to attend to everyone else. Yeah. Please fuck off.
Pretty much. In my head, I was saying that. Nah, just kidding.
You're not. It's like,
sometimes on bad days, maybe.
on bad days,
saying.
I know. I think it got to a point where we were like,
leave me alone.
or maybe we triggered the bit. No,
not at all. Nah, you guys made it, like, as I said, you guys made it fun to be in school, because it wasn't just in the classroom where we were interacting. Like, we were always chatting, like, in the locker areas. If we're out on yard duty, like, you guys would always be there chatting if we bump into each other. So it's that, again, we talk about relationships so much, but that's it. That's the core of everything, I think, within that learning environment, which, I mean, is testament to what we're doing today as well. Like, clearly, I invested time in those relationships back in the day to the point where you've left school for how long now, and, like, we're still talking.
Exactly. Jeez, it's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me old too, because it makes me feel old too.
Because we've known each other, what?
Yeah, because you started year 7 in 2015. Yeah.
Jeez, it's been...
Yeah, that was my second year of teaching. Yeah.
Oh, really? Was it actually?
Yeah, I started
what the hell?
2014.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. I felt like furniture, actually, didn't I? Like, felt like I was there forever. It felt like it towards the end.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's interesting, like, how you talk about how schools advertise their student wellbeing campaign. Well, obviously, the main attraction is students and parents to go to the school.
Yeah.
And then you think of in corporate jobs now, they're doing like yoga retreats.
Corporate well-being.
Yeah, corporate well-being and making sure you're going for a walk together to get a coffee and everything. And then there's nothing for teachers. Have you seen it change at all, or have you heard any stories, or do you feel like it's still pretty rigid?
I think the conversation is being opened up. It will take time, I think,
like
for
anything does.
the system to buy into these things. But again, changes do need to be made before we can see, I think, the effectiveness of these programs coming in for teachers, because the school day is so packed at the moment. Like, you're in school from, say, 8 to 4. Yeah, as a teacher, I worked way longer hours than that. I used to get...
Were you paid for it?
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah. Yeah. So, like, obviously you've got your salary, but the hours that you work is essentially just the 38 hours a week. No. Yeah, 38 hours a week. Am I right? I don't even know. I'm not an employee anymore. Woo! But, yeah, obviously you get the salary, but you weren't paid, like, overtime and things like that. And again, like, teaching is such a love job. Like, you've got to love it to stick with it.
Yeah, I can relate. I became a swim teacher, and then it was like my heart wasn't in it anymore.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to, if I wanted to, I feel like I would have stayed there. But
but you're not doing anyone any favors.
Exactly.
If you stuck there, you're not doing yourself any favors. You're not doing your students any favors, and then that resentment
builds.
Keep building.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's no hate that goes out to the swim school at all. I don't resent them as a thing. It was just like probably not for me.
And it's where you are at in your life as well.
Yeah.
You're taking stock of that.
Yeah, 100%. It's been a good chat.
It's been good.
It's been a good chat. It's like nice catching up.
How long have we gone for? God, almost an hour.
Yeah, almost an hour. It's great form. I'm going to pause.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to swap the camera because I want the camera on you instead. So actually, no.
So what do you mean the camera on me? Has that camera not been on me?
No, it has been on. It just ran out of
Juice.
card space. So this one can come here, and then we're gonna swap to good old Paige Tan.
So weird.
Why?
Did you even pause?
No, I didn't pause. I can just edit it. All right. All right. We're back. We're back. We edited it. And I need to think of the next segue question.
Jokes. It's okay. We've got time.
Yeah. Well, we've I don't know. I haven't really structured the podcast because I just wanted to, I guess, get to know you a bit better and like the teacher side of you and everything, which has been awesome. I feel like you've always been entrepreneurial though, and I think the coaching role really suits you. Like I don't know, with your calligraphy and everything.
Oh, that's true. Oh my god!
Like what a throwback.
I totally forgot about that.
So to answer your
It's so
question, like
true.
yeah, well to
Yeah.
answer your question about could you even pick it from being a maths teacher
Yeah.
to I guess a coach? I've always
Yeah.
seen the entrepreneurial side. You know?
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and I think it's like I think when I first tried to do new things, as I mentioned, there was a lot of fear around it because, again, I didn't have role models around me growing up that started their own businesses and were like successful at running their own things. Everyone around me were employees. And that was just the mindset I grew up with. So I think there was a lot of like, oh my God, I don't know enough to start. And then like once you're actually in it, you realize that you're just gonna keep learning along the way. Like, and no one's expecting you to get it right from get-go.
Why not?
You're
No.
the only person who's putting those blocks in your way, right? And yeah, like literally, again, it takes time and it takes work, commitment to yourself to work that mindset to that point. But yeah, if anything, like putting my teacher hat on and talking to like younger people, because your audience are probably all so much younger than me.
Why are you whispering?
Because I'm an old hag now.
No, you're not.
But yeah, like your audience are probably like all early 20s, right? So yeah, talking to you young people, don't be afraid to identify what you love and don't be afraid to try to make something out of what you love as well. I think times have changed so much. There's room for a role or whatever you want to do. Literally, you can make something out of it. Like, I think the world has come to this point at the moment, and it's just about you making that decision to commit to it.
I love that. I love that so much. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Great message. Yes, we got the content.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Do you have any resentment for like your childhood now, or do you still look back and you're
No, not at
appreciative
all.
of
I think
where you came from?
Yeah, I count my blessings every day the way I grew up, and I think obviously, as cliche as this is, it's everything that has happened in the past that has made me who I am today. So yeah, like no resentment at all. I think there's a lot of learning, like a lot of self-learning came in my adulthood, like learning about myself came in my adulthood. But yeah, no regrets at all.
I love that. What's next for you?
What's next? More coaching things. Podcast is launching. So I'm learning all the tips and tricks here. Nah, not really. I don't have all your gear like you have here.
You can borrow
But
it.
nah.
Oh, okay. Jeez. Rough.
I'll stick with what I've got at the moment, and then when I truly get into the swing of it, I'll come to you for tips. But yeah, podcast is launching, and again, the idea behind the podcast is again just spreading the message of how important it is for not just teachers to think about their well-being, but also everyone who has a teacher in their life to open up that conversation with them as well. Because I think teachers tend to keep things to themselves a lot. Like they give so much during the day that they just don't have the energy after.
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard because you're there to teach maths or you're there to teach English. So
like, that's what you're being paid
exactly.
to do.
Yeah. How are you going to check in with your teacher? And then
Yeah.
it brings back the human side.
Yeah.
So check in on your teachers, everyone.
Correct.
Because you don't know what they're going through as well.
Recess time, lunch time. Like, don't take up their whole lunchtime because they need their lunchtime. But, like, even when you see them out and about, just say hi. It makes a huge difference. Like, I remember when I was at Q, and because I used to live up in Heidelberg, and I used to frequent Ivanhoe Coles, which is where everyone at Q used to hang out. And even just, like, having students say hi to me at Coles, stopping and having a conversation, like, those little things, as silly or as difficult it may be for
so
some of you to do. Yeah, but yeah. And I was the worst. Like, if kids came to say hi to me, I would go like, "Hi, so and so," and I'll make such a big thing out of it. And then, okay, I'm never saying hi to you again. But
see, I love that. I think it's awesome, and yeah, you're still human at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really strong message as well.
Treat people, anyone, like the way you would like to be treated, whether they're your peer, whether it's your teacher, an adult. Yeah. Like respect.
Respect. Thank you, Paige, or Miss Tan, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
This was fun.
Yeah, it was very fun. I'm sure all your links and everything will be
Yeah.
in my show notes below. Be sure to check out
Sweet.
Life with Them podcast on
Yeah.
Instagram.
And if anyone is training to be a teacher, come talk to me.
Yes, 100%. I feel like, yeah, you're a great point of reference for people who are aspiring teachers.
Yeah. Because I'm not here to spread the message of leaving teaching, even though, like, I've hit the pause button on it. Like, I'm here to support teachers who are in it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Actually, final question. Would you go back to teaching?
It's a possibility. Like, I see this as a pause, not a goodbye forever. Yeah, you never know.
We love that. You can leave it at that. We can be very conspicuous. It'll be good. All right. Thank you very much for listening, and catch you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye-bye.